look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go.
Take a look in the 5 and 10.
Listening once again.
Season's greetings, friends. Well, the holidays are a great time to enjoy some classic Christmas movies, and we thought it would be fun to look at a few gems. We start things off, we go way back to 1951 with A Christmas Carol, starring the wonderful late, great Alistair Sim. Now, this movie still stands the test of time. Interestingly enough, it was released in Great Britain under its original title, Scrooged, but we in North America know it as A Christmas Carol. It is the classic story of Charles Dickens' epic story of Christmas time, and Sim is so good in this role, and it's got all the great elements and movie-making qualities of that era, plus some really dazzling special effects for the time. Let's move along. Another oldie but a goodie, 1945. We're going back even further for this one. Christmas in Connecticut. I love this movie. I watch it every year with my family. It's a romantic comedy about an unmarried city newspaper columnist who pretends to be a farm wife and mother and then falls in love with one of her fans. It's the great Barbara Stanwyck. Also features Dennis Morgan and Sidney Greenstreet. This one has a great script, wonderful performances, and just a brilliant execution. Again, it's one that we watch every year. Just a heartwarming classic, Christmas in Connecticut from 1945. And when you look at how old this movie is and how sharp the writing is, it is quite the feat in itself. Okay, we're talking comedy for our next one as well, Scrooged. Who doesn't remember this delightful classic with Bill Murray, which came out in 1988? Now, this is a modernization of the Charles Dickens classic, A Christmas Carol. It was produced and directed by Richard Donner with a great score from Danny Elfman, the frequent collaborator with Tim Burton. Stars Bill Murray, Karen Allen, Bobcat Goldthwait, Alfre Woodard, Robert Mitchum, and also Bill Murray's brothers, Brian, John, and Joel, also appear in the film. Which is interesting, too, is they marketed the movie with references to Ghostbusters, which had great success 4 years earlier. So in the U.S., the tagline for this movie was Bill Murray is back among the ghosts, only this time it's 3 against 1. Gotta love that. Okay, in the same year as Scrooged, we also had Die Hard. I know what you're thinking, Die Hard, isn't this an action movie? But I still regard it as a Christmas classic. Directed by John McTiernan, stars Bruce Willis as an off-duty New York City Police Department officer who's caught in an LA skyscraper during a heist led by the great Alan Rickman, who plays Hans Gruber, one of the best action villains of all time. It ranks up there with one of the best action movies and best Christmas-themed films as well. It spawned a couple of sequels, a very successful franchise, and just this year, the film was selected for preservation in the U.S. National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. Something a little different for the Christmas classics. Let's move along for the kids now. A little bit of a dark twist on some holiday classics. The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993, stop-motion animated musical dark fantasy film. Many people thought it was directed by Tim Burton himself. He did conceive and produce it, but it was actually directed by Henry Selick, and it follows the story of Jack Skellington in Halloween Town, who decides he wants to celebrate Christmas, and there are some dastardly and comical consequences. What's really cool about this movie is Disney released the film through its Touchstone Pictures banner because the studio believed the movie would be too dark and scary for kids. This one has the dual purpose of being accessible at Halloween, but then also makes for a great Christmas movie as well. And you know what? I wanted to throw in a really wacky hidden gem as well, and we go to Finland for this one, Rare Exports. It's from 2010, and it's a dark fantasy horror thriller, and it's about a town that basically discovers the secret behind Santa Claus, and he is a little more sinister than the Santa that we grew up on. This movie tells the story of a company that traps Santa and then trains and exports his elves to various locations around the world. It is a spot-on horror parody and won numerous awards in Finland. So there you go, people. Lots to choose from when it comes to holiday classics. Wishing you all the best this season. I'm Thor Dykow.